It's a language designed to be different from any other on planet Earth, and it's native to one of the fiercest alien races in the Star Trek universe. That's some Klingon, and it comes from the film Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. The actor there is Christopher Lloyd. Now comes Star Trek Discovery, the series that's rolling out right now. It features the Klingons heavily, and the language is getting a new life as a result. A clip from Star Trek Discovery, which is being shot in Toronto. Rea Nolan is a Montreal voice and dialect coach. She's been putting the new Klingons through their paces. She's actually teaching Klingon. Rea and I go a long way back, actually, and here's a little-known Daybreak fun fact. When I first came back to Montreal from London, Rea was actually hired to help me shift my accent back to North America. Rea, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you, too.
And you've gone to space now.
Apparently.
How did you get involved in Star Trek?
Well, it's just one of those things. You get a call and you say yes.
Were you excited?
Absolutely. The franchise is one that really interests me. As a kid, I think it was the first show on television that I watched. I was probably about 5 years old. And all of a sudden, the world just expanded. And I thought, there's so much out there. And it really woke my imagination up. So yes, absolutely. I was thrilled to be invited.
I think it had that effect on a lot of people, certainly me as well. How good was your Klingon coming into this?
0.
How did you pick it up?
Well, part of the job, Klingon is one of the
Right.
aspects of the job, teaching the actors who are playing the roles to intone the language. We have a translator who's actually a fabulous Klingon speaker. She is from Canada. She's from Vancouver, Robin Stewart, and she is considered to be one of the best Klingon speakers walking and talking today. The language was developed by the linguist Mark Okrand, and people who were interested in it just sort of took it and ran with it, eventually established what's called the Klingon Language Institute. And Robin is an active member of that institute, and she does the translations. She gave me an in-depth intensive in the linguistic structure. I read the works of Mark Okrand, and it's now my job to sort of be the interpreter between the written word and what the actors intone.
Yeah, and so for, I guess, people listening, you do this really cool thing where you just bring people to understand how they're shaping their mouths as they speak, because I mean, we just speak so, it's just in the nature of language. You don't think a lot about the way you speak, but the way you position your mouth, how widely open it is, where it's open, front or back, all those sorts of things just make such a huge impact on how differently you can sound.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As one of my teachers said when I was studying this stuff, your voice is basically muscles moving breath. So the way you move your muscles informs how you sound. And you're right, it's unconscious. You know, we spend a lot of energy in early life trying to figure it out, but it very quickly becomes what we call second nature. You don't think about it.
But this language is quite literally alien, or it's produced, designed to be alien. I mean, it is humans that have invented it. But so what's it like trying to get the actors to get their mouths around it?
Well, it's like any skill. Some people are natural born talents, and other people really have to work at it. What do you mean? How is my tongue moving? Well, I don't know. It just moves. So you do specific exercises that will get them aware. So, you know, if it's the back of the tongue, I might choose a consonant that's articulated at the back like ga ga ga, or if it's at the front of the mouth, da da da. And, just even doing those simple things, if you can really feel into how you're moving your tongue, that helps.
I find that I'm going to stop geeking out in just a moment, but just give us a minute with this, everybody. I find the Klingon in Star Trek Discovery a little bit different sounding from the and they are also different looking too. Is that intentional or is it just in my head?
No, it's very much by design. Robin being as fluent as she is, it's much more complex. And with that complexity, of course, comes a memory exercise for the actors that they're having to memorize, runs of sound that they're not really connected to. My job is to get them connected and to help them bring meaning to sound.
And you've gone with a lot of subtitles. So, I mean, in other Star Treks, at some point they just switch into English. The Klingons do. But in this case, there's obviously a conscious decision to go with the language. Do you know why the creators decided to go that route?
I think out of respect for diversity. If, we wanted to have as realistic a look at an alien culture as possible, and the only reason they would switch to English is if they weren't able to make themselves understood. But of course, amongst themselves, they're going to speak their own language.
So, something I think people can relate to a lot more easily is the work you're doing probably with Jason Isaacs and another one of the actors.
Shazad Latif.
Who,
yes.
They're both English.
That's right, they're British.
Right. So, and Jason Isaacs is the captain of Star Trek Discovery. So, what kind of work do you do? Because he's American he's got an American accent.
Yes, he has.
So, how tricky is it to get him to? He's also the guy who played Lucius Malfoy in Harry Potter, right?
That's exactly right.
What's it like getting him to sound American?
Well, he's brilliant at voice, any aspect of voice. He likes to do different accents in every role he incarnates. I think there's a new film coming out of his called The Death of Stalin, which is a bit of a satire. And I have to, and he's doing a Yorkshire accent in that piece, and that's something that he just decided he wanted to do because he felt it would inform the character. So when he approaches a role, his training, he and I were actually at the same school at different times, Central School of Speech and Drama in London, and voice was something that he really connected to as a key into the character. And when he's developing a role, often it's an intuitive choice, but he'll feel into what is right for the part. And in this case, he felt strongly that there was just a slight Southern inflection. He was thinking about a military man, a man of war, and something about that brought him intuitively towards a strong American with a touch of Southern.
Because it can go so wrong. Putting on an accent, and we've all seen it, can hinder a performance.
Sure can.
I know the British always point to Dick Van Dyke as someone who doesn't quite pull off the English accent. And they say, if you have a bad English accent, you go over to London, they say you sound like Dick Van Dyke. But it can also really make the performance take off. And you think of Meryl Streep and others. If you nail it, you become that character.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the sound in your mouth. I mean, language goes much deeper than that. It's an instinct that we have. When we're born, it's what we acquire in order to relate to each other, and it lives in your bones and every cell of your body, really. Even though, people think it happens from here up. At theater school, they'll say, drop your breath, or take that down into the pelvic floor. And you think that's foolishness. But really, when you do work with voice as much as language, which is about shaping and sound, voice is what comes from deep inside of you.
So this is a big deal, Star Trek Discovery. I see it's been renewed for a second series.
We just got word that we're renewed for a second season.
And
yes.
a cheer coming from the other side of the glass from our technician. And I'm happy as well because I'm really enjoying it. Will you be back? Will they bring you on again? Do you know that yet?
Yes. Contracts are always something that happen once production gets underway. But I did have a chat with the showrunner at the very end of the season, and he asked, would you come back if asked? And I said, absolutely. And he said, well, I'm asking.
So they like you, which I totally understand because I've pretty much lost my Mid-Atlantic issue, I think, now.
Oh, you sound very much of our city. So welcome home, Mike.
I was, yeah, I find it difficult at the time, I have to say. I mean, I thought you were more of a therapist actually with me than a speech coach in some way because I was just feeling, oh, why are they hassling me with this? And,
maybe the two well, they're not trades, callings maybe, a voice teacher or therapist, maybe there's some crossover.
Maybe there is. It's a delight to see you again. Congratulations on all your success.
Thank you.
Rea Nolan, who's a Montrealer, she's a voice and dialect coach, and she's teaching Klingon and American English to the actors of Star Trek Discovery.